Yeah, good to go.
Okay. So we have a replacement fight for UFC 270 here. What was originally going to be Ilia Topuria versus Movsar Evloev is now going to be Ilia Topuria versus Charles Jourdain, which frankly I'm more excited about than the original matchup. I think we've talked about it multiple times when we mentioned Jourdain. I'm always excited to see him fight when he fights. And after his last fight against who was Andre Ewell, that was the final fight on his contract. And they re-upped him. I forget. Pusto was telling us. I think he got a 4-fight deal.
Nice.
And to start your 4-fight deal with a short notice fight against Ilia Topuria is a tall order, a tough order, but big kudos for him to stepping in. And he fought on the last UFC event of the year of 2021. So he's going to be fighting with a just over a month turnaround time. So big credit on him taking the fight. But that's a tough ass matchup to be fighting Ilia Topuria, who's just been murdering people. I'm kind of torn on. I'm not quite sure what to pose here as our question for this one because it's like a wild card of a fight. Because if Topuria wins this fight, what does this do for him? Now we already know this guy's a serial killer, but you're beating someone on a short notice fight who fought the fight is short notice, and he fought like a month ago, and he went the distance. I don't know. I mean, I might not have a question on this one. Do you have anything on this one that kind of interests you when you look at that as the matchup?
I do have a question. Will Charles Jourdain be able to overcome? I think that's the question because and I'm jumping a little bit here, but I want to point something out just really quickly. You don't see the line here, but if you go to DraftKings, what they have the line set out here is insane. So question-wise, I think we should be asking, look at this. Ilia Topuria is set at minus 490 on the money line. Charles Jourdain is plus 360. So my question to reiterate is, will Charles Jourdain be able to overcome? This is nuts. They're basically saying there's no way in hell. You and I think, we put a lot of stock in Charles Jourdain, but again, he's going up against a murderer. So, yeah, what's gonna happen, man?
What's your response on that? What do you think?
Heart says Charles, but Pocket says Topuria, man. But again, we've seen some crazy crap happen. Like this last card, for example, I didn't see Giga losing the way he did. But he did, so it's very possible that
I would like to say that I did see that happen.
It is true. You did say that. And I'm actually trying to see if they have
I don't think they have it yet on our end. I couldn't find it either. Unfortunately, I think it's just maybe too fresh yet, but you have Kay Hansen's over under. You don't have Charles Jourdain's fights over under set up yet. Come on, dog.
And see that would kind of help. That would kind of help my brain understand what's going on a little bit more if I knew where they were going to set it at.
Can I speculate? Can we pull up Topuria's profile real quick?
Yeah, we can, dude. Speculate. Go ahead, man.
So this is Topuria. Okay. Those are the 3 fights in the UFC. I'm going to be honest. I think it'll be at 1.5.
Jesus.
I think it'll be at 1.5. Let me preface. I think it'll be at 1.5 if this is one of those lines that coincide with each other. And by that, I mean what we've discussed several times where you have the money line and the favorites in favor of the favorite clearly, especially in this case, you have a heavy favorite. So you would imagine the over-under is going to coincide with how that favorite typically performs. So if we're looking at his UFC resume, you have a decision win against Yusuf Zalal. Then you have and then 2 back-to-back knockouts against Ryan Hall and Dontel Jackson, I think it is. So if we're gonna ride
Damon,
who?
Damon,
No idea who that is.
Neither do
I. So if we're gonna go with that, which again, when you have a super heavy favorite at almost minus 500 with still a week to go, by the way, it could get worse. I would imagine it would be set with what works with him, which I would think is 1.5. Also, if we look at Charles Jourdain, when he does win, he wins with finishes. This was only his second time, I believe, winning by. This was his last fight against Andre Ewell was his first decision win. He had 11 wins entering that fight, and he had 11 finishes. Now, they're not always early finishes. You can see there against Rojo, his finish was over 2.5. And obviously his most recent win was over 2.5. So I don't think they're really going to be factoring Jourdain into it though, on the winning side. Actually, let's pull up. If we do the see all for Jourdain, there's one other thing I want to double check. So Jourdain has lost 4 times. So his submission loss, it was on the over 2.5. His split loss was a decision, so that's over. And his other loss, unanimous, was over. So his 3 losses in the UFC have all gone over 2.5. But at the same time, he has not fought anyone remotely in the same hemisphere as Ilia Topuria in terms of competition. So that's why I'm speculating 1.5. What do you think?
You might be right, man. You might be right. What I think is I don't know. And I think you're right in terms of if it is set at 1.5, it will be 100% based on Tupuria's performance.
Yeah.
I can see it. I mean, I can definitely see it. I don't know how big it's going to be in terms of like the spread. But yeah, I could see 1.5. It's rare that we see it for these for non-heavyweights or even light heavies. I mean, no, actually, what I'm saying,
you see it occasionally,
yeah.
But it's not as, especially, I mean, these are lightweights that we're talking about too. So it's not the most common thing. It happens. Not the most common thing though. I will say if it's set at 2.5, I would be smashing the under, contingent on what it's set at though. I feel like if it's under 2.5, the under is going to be a pretty sizable favorite, I would think.
Yeah.
Like I'll keep an eye out on our end. Let's see I'd be interested to see what it opens at. If it opens at under 2.5, I'm thinking the under is going to be probably like at least minus 170. I would think. So if it opens at over 1.5, I think I would take the over. So I think this fight's going to end somewhere between rounds 1.5 and 2.5. I think that's the sweet spot, regardless of who's going to win. If Charles somehow wins, I would be more inclined. Actually, no. If Charles wins, I think it could possibly be a finish too. I can't say that with too much confidence because Topuria hasn't even lost, so we don't even know what a loss for Topuria would look like. But regardless, we said this with Royval and Bontarin, where we said that might be a dark horse pick for fight of the night. This is mine for this event. The easy picks are going to be Moreno Figueiredo and Francis versus Cyril. Neither of those would surprise me if they get it. But in terms of looking at the rest of the card, this fight, outside of the title fights, I'm most excited about this fight.
Yeah. Same here, man. Something I want to point out though, very similar to the similarities are actually kind of staggering. Very similar to Kattar versus Chikadze. Jourdain has never been knocked out.
Correct.
So,
and if we look at Topuria, can we pull up Topuria's end one more time? The one with this full view. 12-0, right? If we go up a little more.
Oh, sorry.
11-0, 10 finishes. So something's got to give. Well, I mean, something could not give. He could also just win by decision, but I don't know. So
this is insane to see here, though. Like all these subs, then he gets into the UFC and it's
knockout,
KO, TKO. Yeah, hell, man. Maybe we see this go to the ground, and like that might be fascinating.
That's where Charles is going to be in trouble because I'm glad you have it pull up here. So against Julian Erosa, he was struggling. He was struggling on the ground. So that's, I think, the biggest wild card. Now, I'm sure Charles. Because I think, again, Charles, I believe, is a very good fighter. So, by the way, I think I said these guys are lightweight. I think they're featherweight.
Feather.
Yeah, they are featherweight. So, correction. I said they're lightweights. They're featherweights. Charles, I think, is the type of fighter where there's fighters where they lose, and they lose by whatever. Let's say they lose by submission, or they get ragdolled. They get taken down a bunch, and then they come out, and then they're still getting ragdolled. There's fighters that don't make those adjustments fight over fight. And then there's fighters that do. I think Charles is one of those that he will be able to make those adjustments. Now, it wasn't really applicable against Andre Ewell, but it's probably going to be applicable against Ilia Topuria, who averages over 3 takedowns a fight. Now, if he hasn't made the improvements to be able to combat that, then the line makes sense where it's at. Because my initial reaction when I saw that line was, what the hell? I think both our reactions was, what the hell? How is he that favored? I understand it's short notice, but it's a good quality competitor in Charles Jourdain. It's not like some of the other times where we see some random guy they picked up from Buffalo Wild Wings and threw him in the octagon. But if it goes to the ground and we don't see the improvement, if he struggled against Julian Erosa, what the hell is he going to do against Ilia Topuria? So that's the biggest thing. If this goes to the ground, are we going to see, I guess this question just materialized. If this goes to the ground, are we going to be able to see Jourdain get out of it, scramble, something? Or is he going to get drowned down there? Actually, he might not even get drowned down there. He might just get finished down there.
I don't think he'll be able to pull that through. And you got to figure he's going to be hyper aware of that. Yeah, I think if it goes to the ground, it's in Topuria's favor, 100%, dude, 100%. So maybe that is why we're seeing the line set where it's at.
Yeah, I kind of talked myself into it. That's what I'm kind of starting to work towards as well. It seems like.
But again, if it doesn't, or if there have been adjustments made on Jourdain's side, and he manages to stay on his feet, he manages to not let himself get taken down. Hell, even if he does get taken down, maybe. No, I think I'm going to take that back because it's last minute. He hasn't had time to have a camp against Topuria's strategy. Yeah. If it goes to the ground, he's done. Stand up, I think he's got a shot. Stand up, for sure.
I'm gonna filibuster. I'm trying to find. I want to see so we have on Topuria's page there. If you pull up his profile, while I try and pull up Charles's profile on UFC's website because ESPN sucks. You'll see with if we go to the UFC 270 screen on ESPN where it shows like the stats.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, so you see there, significant strikes landed per minute for Topuria is 2.8, just shy of 3. It's a whatever number, not crazy high volume there. So I'm pulling up Charles Jourdain because I'm pretty sure his is much more higher volume.
I think I can grab that from UFC's actual site.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if I can find it on UFC's site. Yeah. So while you pull it up, I found it too. I'll say it. So he's landing 5.7 per minute. He's and again, we see this when we fight. If you hit show stats, it'll show the rest of it. We see it, but he's also taking damage too.
Yeah.
I think the next evolution for Charles Jourdain to actually, I do think he legitimately could possibly be a contender in this division. But the caveat being, he does need to clean up his defense.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of saw a little bit of it towards the end of the fight against Andre Ewell. Now, he was already well in control of that fight, so I can kind of get it. But like that 300 Sparta kick at the end, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Look, that's all. That was fun. That was cool as hell to see. But he does get he has shown a tendency to sometimes get sloppy. And against Topuria, you have this margin, no margin to do something like that. So I think if it wasn't even Topuria, whoever else it may have been, his next evolution is to clean that up. And that takedown defense of 48% is kind of scary.
Yeah, it's not good. Let's be honest, man. It's not good at all.
Yeah, so now that I think we've both maybe talked ourselves into the line being appropriately set, maybe a slight inflation, but I was initially thinking this is way overinflated. But as we've talked through this, I think a slight inflation, not as drastic as I thought it initially was. Having said that, I do think Charles can win.
For sure.
It's not going to be on the ground. The way he wins, his pathway to victory is if he can stuff Ilia's takedown attempts. We talked about today a couple of times the getting detoured, the mental roadblock sometimes of if you know what your strength is and you're fighting someone, like we saw with Giga. Giga knows his kicks are his strength and this and that, and then he gets taken down and he gets muffled down there and he gets just kind of muted the rest of the way. So if we see Ilia struggling to find his strength against Jourdain, maybe we can see him break through in that regard. Because if it stays on the feet, volume-wise, Charles can pepper him with the volume.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Charles can go the distance comfortably 3 rounds. Like, I'm not worried about him fading down the stretch. I think his his endurance should be able to hold as long as he's not like throwing caution to the wind and going crazy balls to the wall with some of the swinging. But if it stays on the feet, if he can somehow stuff Topuria, and by the way, Topuria is still threatening on the feet too. But if he can stay on the feet, I think we can see a pathway to victory there. Because if he can kind of walk down Topuria the way we saw Cater walking down Giga, and Giga is also Georgian, so maybe that might be the way, you know. So I think there is pathway to victory. It's just probably not likely because I'm not overly confident with how is he going to stuff Topuria's ground game.
Yeah,
That's kind of where I end up landing.
no, I think we synced up on this one. Yeah, man, and it's unfortunate, dude, because I really want Charles to progress. But if he does get stopped here, I mean, what does that mean for him? He still has fights on his contract, but if we look at his fight history, like, you know, that kind of
Look, it's very colorful.
yeah, it goes into an alternating. He goes roulette, you know. That's never a good sign, and especially coming off our last preview where we discussed how he needed to be decisive in his victory, and he was decisive in his victory against Andre Ewell.
Yeah,
but if he's decisive in a loss against Ilia Topuria, it's a bad look, dude.
You know how I look at this for Jourdain? I look at this as a win-win, and the reason I look at this as a win-win is so you just signed a 4-fight deal. You have 3 fights left. If you get walloped, the expectation is kind of that you get walloped. If you win, phenomenal.
Yeah.
If he wins, regardless of how he wins, it's a win for him.
Yep.
And then if he loses where he doesn't completely get his ass handed to him, but he hangs, even if he gets finished, but he hangs up to the finish, it's a win. Because again, he's the one who's doing the favor. At this point, he would have had maybe approximately 10 days notice to fight someone that's 11-0 and like a very convincing 11-0. I don't see him, regardless of outcome, I don't see his stock dipping. I don't see it going down. So it won't look good on the stat sheet over here on the wins losses, especially how it's been looking of late. After like May of 2019, you have a loss, a win, a loss, a draw, a win, a loss, a win, and then possibly another loss. It doesn't look good in that regards. And then his UFC record at that point, I think, would be like 3-4-1 or some shit like that. So it's not great on paper. But at this point, you're kind of the hero stepping in because the original fight was a big fight in terms of both of those guys, Topuria and Evloev, are kind of the guys looked at as possible contending guys that are to come up. So you saved something there. You know, it went from that to that possibly getting scrapped to now you have a chance to show that you should be in that conversation too. Imagine if he pulls this out of his ass and wins. He went from fighting out his contract to all of a sudden he might be ranked after this fight if he somehow wins. So I think there's more to gain than borderline nothing to lose for him, unless he gets finished immediately. Then yeah, or if he gets completely embarrassed on the ground and exposed, that's where I think maybe that might be the other avenue of dude, we saw it against Julian Erosa, and now it doesn't look like there was that much improvement. So I think that would be the lone downside for Charles. Otherwise, I think more likely than not, it should be in his favor.
Fair enough.
We'll see. Do you? Again. So I think for both of us, possible candidate for fight of the night outside of the 2 title fights. Any last things for you on this one?
Nah.
Yeah. So let's see. So these guys are going to be. I think they're on the prelim. They're not on the main. Yeah, they are on the prelim. So we'll see what they do. Excited to see it. So again, our question kind of in the beginning was, can Charles overcome? He's almost he's over. You know, Topuria is almost a 5-1 favorite. Can Charles overcome that? And then in addition to that, is he going to be able to combat Topuria's ground game? Let us know. Do you guys think this could possibly be a fight of the night candidate? Let us know, and we'll find out.